10 tips for taking the TOEFL test. The TOEFL test consists of reading about 70 minutes with 30 to 40 questions, listening 55 minutes, about 28 to 39 questions. Then you have a 10-minute break, speaking 70 minutes with 4 tasks. By understanding how the test is structured, you'll know exactly what to expect and what you need to work on. Plan preparation. Don't cram. Don't rush. Make sure you have enough time to prepare. Set a reasonable goal or grade to strive for. Plan for each section separately. Writing, speaking, listening, and reading are all fundamentally different. Bunching everything together will result in unnecessary stress and chaos. By focusing on each individual section, you will make things clear for yourself. Focus on your lessons on specific skills instead of trying to do everything all at once. Determine what the ideal but realistic score would be and follow an effective study plan to achieve that. The right kind of study plan is important and will help you progress efficiently. Keep the following points in mind when drafting your study plan. Begin by planning how much time would be required to study each section. It might be that you need more time on some sections and less on others. If your speaking and listening skills are strong, then you need to focus more on reading and writing. It's important to practice tests to gauge your strengths and weaknesses. Now that you know how much time you need to prepare each section, develop a study schedule. Plan out which days you will focus on a particular section. Stick to the schedule and follow it consistently. Students study better when they know exactly what they will be doing on a given day. Also, keep it balanced by including time to cover other activities as well. Re-evaluate your study plan from time to time. It should be all about being more productive. So if you are falling behind with progress on a section, make changes as needed. Improve vocabulary. Read more. Each section of the test will require test takers to know enough vocabulary. I created a book with 1,300 academic words that will help students with their English. Each entry comes with a definition and example sentence. Check it out in the description below. Don't translate. Translating vocabulary and sentences wastes a lot of time. It is very rare that students have extra time during the test. If you don't know a word, look at the context of the sentence and the words around it, instead of trying to translate it. Learners should also be familiar with vocabulary used in questions. The following words are commonly found in essay test questions. Understanding them is essential to success on such questions. Analyze. Break into separate parts and discuss, examine, or interpret each part. Explain. Make an idea clear. Show logically how a concept is developed. Give the reasons for an event. Compare. Examine 2 or more things. Identify similarities and differences. Illustrate. Give concrete examples. Explain clearly by using comparisons or examples. Contrast. Show differences set in opposition. Interpret. Comment upon. Give examples. Describe relationships. Explain the meaning. Describe. Then evaluate. Criticize. Make judgments. Evaluate comparative worth. Criticism often involves analysis. Outline. Describe main ideas, characteristics, or events. Does not necessarily mean numbering them. Answer structure. Races. To construct more thoughtful and thorough responses to comprehensive questions, it is not enough to simply answer the questions. For this, most instructors teach the races strategy. Restate. Use words from the question to begin your answer. Take out the question word. Who, what, where, when, how, why. What is your favorite color? My favorite color is. Why is it important to work hard in school? It is important to work hard in school because. Answer. Answer all parts of the question using academic writing or speaking. Make sure you understand what the question is asking. Answer all parts of the question. Use vocabulary from the text in your answer. Cite. Cite evidence from the text to support your answer. Be a detective. There are 2 ways. Paraphrase. Write information from the text in your own words. No need for quotation marks. Direct quote. Use exact words from the text. Quotation marks are needed here. Sentence starters. According to the text in the video. For example, the author of the article states that. An example from the text is explain. Explain how your evidence proves your answer. Make a connection to yourself or something you have read or seen. Sentence starters. This evidence shows me. That shows that. This means I believe. Sum up. Always wrap your answers with one concluding sentence. Sentence enders include finally, therefore, to sum up, all in all, as you can see. Remember, this is for one test. You don't need to learn every single sentence starter or transition phrase. Rather, plan which ones you will prepare and use in each question ahead of time. For example, in the first question, in the writing section, the sentence starters you will use are I believe, an example from the text, to sum up. Do the same with vocabulary. Memorize a list of words that sound good that you can insert into each section to sound better. It's not cheating, it's studying with purpose. You know the format of the test. By preparing for specific possible questions will make you more confident. Some more connection words or transitions you can use are steps, first, second, next, finally, reasons, because, since, results, as a result, so, therefore, examples, for example, such as comparisons, in contrast, on the other hand, restatements of information, in other words, that is, conclusions, in conclusion, in summary. Practice this strategy. Write out keywords from the text, listening or speaking questions, then answer using the RACES strategy. Time management. Timing is one of the biggest issues students face when doing the IELTS, TOEFL or TOEIC exams. Even native speakers that attempt these tests struggle due to the limited amount of time given. So it should be a priority to prepare for that challenge. The total test time for TOEFL is 3 hours. Reading 72, listening 60, a 10-minute break, speaking 17, writing 50 minutes. During the exam, keep an eye on the clock or your watch. And if you've spent a minute on a question and still don't know the answer, guess and move on. You can return at the end. If you get stuck at a question, it doesn't just waste time, but also causes you to have a bit of a mental block and takes away from your focus. To combat that, you should practice tests often under exam conditions. That means you have to time yourself according to the test time. You will have to learn how to work efficiently with time in mind. Practice tests. The best way to prepare for IELTS, TOEFL or TOEIC is by doing practice tests. It might be a good idea to purchase a textbook specifically for the test that you can work through. One that has exercises, vocabulary, practice tests, and explains the answers. You don't necessarily have to work from front to back, rather work on sections you find most challenging. It is possible to have a book that is much easier than official test resources. So look for free samples on the internet to supplement the work you are doing. Also, make sure that the question types are up to date. Note taking. Become an expert note taker. Developing note taking skills is essential for solving tests. Here are some tips to improve your note taking. When practicing reading, underline the main ideas and take notes on a piece of paper. Get in the habit of taking notes when listening to English media on YouTube, ebooks, or podcasts or Netflix. Avoid writing full sentences as it takes unnecessary time. Just jot down relevant chunks of the information to get clarity on the main idea. Practice remembering important details as well as writing faster in English. If you get into the habit of taking notes and using those in your answers, it will give you valuable information and structure to work with. This can be used for all sections, even before speaking. Make notes to use as a cheat sheet to support your answers. Read more. Let's face it, reading practice test passages may be boring. Some people may be interested in the phases of the moon or the geopolitics of ancient Rome, but most tend to fall asleep after the first paragraph. Staying focused is an enormous part of scoring well on English tests. Even if you can read the words, but you don't know what they mean or how it connects to the rest of the passage, you won't be able to accurately answer the questions. Therefore, you have to increase your focus by getting in the habit of reading more. But you cannot read passages the same way you read a newspaper or novel. Read with certain goals in mind. Read actively. Passive reading is when you read a newspaper, then forget pretty much everything you read besides a vague main idea. You might remember that you read about a war in Syria, but you will not be able to recall important descriptive vocabulary, details in each paragraph, or specific quotes. Active reading will help you remember a lot more of what you read, and this skill is extremely important for all sections of the test. While most exams test your memory, IELTS, TOEFL, and TOE tests test your comprehension. They don't want to see if you remember the material, but if you can understand it. Your goal is to understand what you read. How do you do that? Before you start reading a passage, imagine that you are a teacher. You have to explain what you have read to a 6-year-old student. You have to understand the main idea and important vocabulary. Then reword it in a way that a child would understand. Practice doing that, if possible, with a partner. Each of you read a different passage, then explain it in a clear, understandable way. You should also try to remember specific information or quotes from the reading. If you practice this skill, you will massively improve the ability of understanding the material and applying it in English tests. Focus on what's important. Ignore what's not. Learn all the possible questions and their variations. That way, you don't have to waste time reading or rereading questions. Once you have done enough examples and know exactly what the question requires, get started right away. Look for keywords and create a list of vocabulary you can use in your answers. Once you sit down for the test, immediately write these words next to the question. That will leave you with more mental space to focus on using the evidence in the passage or question. Most English learners believe that they need to improve their English as a whole, which is fine, unless your goal is getting the best possible score in a test. You don't need a breadth of knowledge, you need specific words and phrases for your answers. Whatever you learn extra really doesn't matter. Find keywords and synonyms, look for paraphrases, and eliminate wrong answers if it's listening, speaking, writing, or reading. Reflection. Countless English test takers fall into the practice trap. They feel that the best way to improve their score is to keep on studying and retaking the test, but they never reflect on what they have learned. It is important to learn the PARA framework. Plan, act, reflect, adjust. Practice is just one small step of this process. You must also spend a significant amount of time planning, reflecting, and adjusting. Plan for success. Think of your weaknesses and possible challenges you'll face. Construct a plan to solve these problems. Take mistakes for reading, for example. There are only 3 possible reasons why a student might get an answer wrong. They misread the passage, misread the question, did not understand the vocabulary. You should therefore instill the following reactions. Misread the passage. I have to pay better attention to keywords in the question next time. I was looking at the wrong place in the passage for the answer. Misread the question. I always make the same mistake with negative detail questions. I choose a correct answer rather than an incorrect one. From now on, I will pay special attention to each question and keep a sharp eye out for the words not or except. Did not understand the vocabulary. I didn't understand the word acquire. I'm going to look up some examples with the word and then practice writing a few sentences of my own. If I have a teacher, I will ask her to correct my grammatical mistakes. That is a tough habit to learn because it takes time and focus, 2 of our most precious resources. Preparing for an English test is a bit different than for communication, but that doesn't mean that it has to be hard.